You are about to listen to a Jason Burgos exclusive interview. All right, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm a little fat, but great.
Well, I mean, well-earned fat, I would say.
Thank you. I think I earned it, so I'll
S-
take it.
So when did the interest get into making him a murderer?
Oh, we watched that a while ago.
Hmm.
When I was in Charlotte, the new season came out. So my wife and I can't watch it apart because she was still in
Oh, I
Atlanta.
know that feeling.
Exactly. When I got back, we started it up right away. I think we're on like episode 4 or 5 now.
What's this one about? Because I heard stories talking about that, like there was supposed to be some lawyer that was gonna help him out,
Yeah.
pro bono. Is that what it is? Just following her and her investigation of it?
Pretty much. I mean, it's just bringing out more holes in the DA's story, I guess, and then trying to figure out how to get Dassey off as well.
Hmm.
So there's two different lawyer groups that are working with each of them, and the Dassey case is what really frustrates me because they have no evidence except for his confession,
Hmm.
and his confession was very sketchy at best. So
Yeah.
it's very very frustrating to watch how the DA has done such a sketchy job and put a kid away for life basically for just a forced confession of a 16-year-old.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I haven't seen it in a while, but I've seen a lot of documentary. I love documentaries. I've seen how many where cops will coerce a kid into saying what they want, just like I mentioned in the chat about the Central Park Five or whatever it's
Yep.
called. It happened in that too. But what's also funny is I saw there was this great documentary on Paramount about this guy, his longtime Montana detective, who thought this one guy was like a secret serial killer for a long time. He actually thought he was a part of that, like the
Mm.
Steve Avery thing. Um,
Yep.
in the end, his evidence was weak, but the interesting thing of the show was it looked like he may have been the Zodiac killer, which is even crazier that he might have found the Zodiac killer from this.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, I recommend
Oh
it. It's
my
great. But
gosh.
away from that, speaking on your very impressive, successful career, I mean, you competed at featherweight for the first time in the UFC in this last fight.
hmm
Did you have previous experience in your career below lightweight, and what was the reasoning behind changing divisions?
So I fought I think 3 or 4 times at featherweight prior to sign in with the UFC, and each time I fought, I thought I was gonna die cutting the weight. And I'm a huge 145,
Mm-hmm.
so the 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 tipping point was one of the last fights I fought at 145. We had a really bad cut, and then the rehydration was very stressful in it. My father was in the room, and he thought I was going to die. We took a good long look at it, figured out that I think I competed better at 155. I mean, I had a lot of success at 155 again, but then once I got to the UFC, it started to get iffy again. And then we went to the Performance Institute specifically to see if we can make 145, and if so, what kind of supplements or not supplements, but what kind of support the Performance Institute
Yeah.
could give me or provide me. So once we figured out that I could make it somewhat safely, we decided to go for it, and it was pretty crazy because I cut no weight at all for 145 in this fight,
Hmm.
none. I dieted down, and then the week of the fight I checked in like 8 pounds over, and then which really isn't bad at all. And then just over the course of the week with the diet that they had me on, I was able to wake up 4 tenths over on the day of weigh-ins,
Hmm.
which the last time I fought at 45, I think I was 10 or 12 pounds over the day of weigh-in, so I had to
Wow.
cut all that water weight,
Yeah.
and it was terrible. So it was just fantastic. Didn't have to go to the sauna one time, didn't have to do any hot tub, didn't have any sweats on, none of that.
Yeah, I've talked to Bo Sandoval from the Performance Center. He seems like a really smart guy, and they seem like they're really with it and the supportive fighters. So, what was the difference this time around compared to your previous experience in terms of cutting? Was it simply a nutrition thing? Was it more like the processing? Like I've talked to a fighter recently who got a nutritionist for the first time, and he was enlightened on like of course, the supplements, eating the right food, but also the timing of when you eat it, before and after?
Exactly.
Was it just simple things like that? That was the difference this time around?
Exactly. So I know a decent amount about diet and nutrition and somewhat about biology and the mechanics or mechanisms for us to get energy, but I didn't know as much as I should have apparently, and that's what the tweaks were done with my nutrition, working with Charles and Clint at the Performance Institute. They really worked on the timing of what I was eating for what kind of workout I was doing. So if I was doing a high intensity workout, they would have me eating a meal a few hours before with a lot of starches to fuel that workout. Whereas if it was a moderate intensity, kind of slower pace workout, I'd be fueling with more fats and proteins. So it all was based on what kind of training I was doing for the nutrition, or using what nutrition for the certain type of training. And the Bo is the one who really got me on the idea of not training as hard as I was. So that was a huge problem that I've always had, is I always tend to overtrain, I guess you'd say. Even if I was eating healthy and doing all the right things nutritionally, I was training hard at least once a day, maybe twice a day, every day of the week. Whereas now they want us to do, one day of maybe two high intensity workouts, and then the very next day is just moderate, easy stuff, technique stuff, low pace. And then the third day would be another high intensity day, instead of having back to back to back. So it really helped my recovery, and that with the nutrition and the new diet plan, it all helped out a ton.
Yeah, the fighter I talked to was Josh Copeland. He's in the PFL finals, and
Yep.
part of the thing with him was he was never able to get a nutritionist before and make a big difference for him, which it did, because he just couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
Is having like the Performance Institute in all of your back pockets as being a part of the UFC roster, is that like a huge difference? Because I've talked to people there, or people that have been there. I haven't talked to fighters on how helpful it is. Is that like a great resource you guys now have that's saved you a lot of money and is super helpful?
It's absolutely incredible what we have. The only problem is getting there. So I'm lucky enough that I used to live in Vegas for a little while, and I have friends there who took me in. So I go out there. All I have to do is pay for flights, which isn't that big of a deal. And then I have a place to stay for a week, and then I can train there, eat there, and everything at the Performance Institute. So everything works out well. The other people, they might have to fly out there, pay for a hotel, pay for a car, pay for everything. Whereas I'm a little bit on the beneficiary side because of my friends there. But as a resource, the Performance Institute is fantastic. I mean, just having a nutritionist that I can message any time of day, 5-6 days a week, really. He was even messaging me on Sunday after the fight. That really helps out a lot, saying, "Hey man, I feel like crap today. I ate this, and this. Let's adjust something." Or, "Hey, I'm way underweight. Where can I add some proteins at? Where can I do this and that?" It's fantastic. And then they have this new technology that kind of tests our central nervous system, which I didn't get it until late in the camp this last fight, so I didn't use it that much. But it's something that helps us know, hey, your body's not ready for a high intensity workout. Scale it back, go moderate, or hey, you're ready to kill this today. Your body is in the right chemistry, biology, everything ready to go and crush it. So you have no excuses. Get out there in the gym and kill it. So these are just like the two main resources that I've been using that I love. And it's all free. It's taken care of. It's nice. I like to say it's free. I mean, it's kind of built into how our pay structure is, but
Okay.
I mean, it's fantastic.
Are they? Is it like you message them and they get back to you within the hour? Is it that kind of good?
Charles is pretty good about it. I mean, he'll if I say, "Hey, I have a lot of questions. Can we get on the phone?" We'll probably get on the phone either that day or the following day. But if it's like a simple question I have, he'll reply to me within the hour for sure.
Oh, cool. Now,
I mean, they're really good about it.
with an opponent like Jason Knight, who you just fought last, who is very intense and emotional and will goad his opponents to come forward in the cage, is it difficult to at all to fight that urge to show, yeah, I can strike with you, I can beat you at your own game, or do you read those things as stuff like, I prepared for this, let me keep to the game plan, this is exactly what I was ready for?
Definitely the latter. So, one of the things that I feel is very important is not fighting with emotions. Once you fight with emotions, it takes out the logic in it. So if you have those on a graph, you want to keep the emotions as low as possible and the logic as high as possible. So if this guy's most dangerous in this position, I don't want to get coaxed into fighting him there. That's stupidity. My job is to go in there, get hit the least amount as possible, and hit him as much as possible, and hope for a finish as well. I've never understood why people get emotional. I think it drains your energy. I think it makes you it causes you to make poor decisions. So we knew Jason was going to do this. We knew he was going to do all that stuff leading, maybe not as much as he did, but we knew he was going to be emotional at the weigh-ins. We knew he was going to do all this stuff, trying to coax me into an emotional fight. And I was getting a little fired up. I'm not going to lie. I was getting frustrated with some of it. It was annoying me.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we have a job. We're professionals. We got to figure out how to do this as detached as possible, so then we don't make those poor decisions in the heat of the moment, So it was something we planned on. It was something that we were a little loose on our game plan because we weren't sure how his rubber guard was going to be effective off his back with me on top. So when we went out there, we were planning on striking a little more, but once I got on top and was having a lot of success there, we said, nah, let's just put him on his back and get this solid win.
Now, transition to the wrestling and grappling aspect. I mean, often fighters have mentioned a move down in weight being an opportunity to be the bigger and stronger man. I mean, Joe Rogan in the broadcast, he mentioned he felt you were big for the division. You mentioned you felt you were big for the division. As you controlled him for most of the fight on the ground, was there a difference in strength for you overnight that you didn't have with opponents at 155? And did that adjusted style of preparing you to weight cut and all the stuff from the performance center further help with the possibility of being the stronger man?
So Jason was definitely, I don't want to be mean about it, but he was on the weaker side of the opponents that I've had. But that's also because it was a weight class lower. So it's not that he's just a weak individual. I don't know what his strength and conditioning is like, but it's just any person at 145 I've fought, I'm basically way stronger than. And it comes from, one, I'm just a big 145, but two, I've always enjoyed lifting weights. I've always enjoyed that side of sports. So the supplement side of weightlifting and strength and conditioning is something I really enjoy doing, and I'll always enjoy doing and do it, post-fighting career. So the strength is something I've always generally had over most of my opponents. Maybe a handful of people have been stronger than me, but it was nice to have that. I think I'll always have that at 145. I'll have the strength advantage. The kind of lifting that I'm doing now is to help build my speed up more, because the guys at 145 are fast. They're super fast. So I gotta work on the fast twitch muscles. The Olympic style lifting is, over the last few years, really helped my speed a lot. But yeah, I mean, size and strength is something I'll always have, and I'll always feel pretty confident in.
Now, you're 2-2 in the UFC, alternating your wins and losses. How do you view your tenure in the promotion so far? And do you believe this change in the vision, the cutting ability, 445, the strength you mentioned, can it now lead to a much needed winning streak and really get something going and get in the direction of a title shot?
I mean, eventually. So the frustrating thing is the back and forth. I need to get on the winning streak. So I was talking to my manager about it, is that we're not going to jump in and say, hey, I want a ranked opponent right now. We need to get some solid wins. Keep getting me more comfortable. If you saw my fight in Charlotte, I got destroyed. For Gillespie is a great fighter and nothing away from him, but I did terrible. And then this fight, it's getting more and more comfortable. Having that 15-minute fight is fantastic just for being under the spotlight in the octagon. In the UFC, it's just time in the cage. It's experience. It's great for me going forward. So now let's not, after a good win like that, let's not just throw myself and say, hey, let's get top 15. Let's get somebody around where I am again, and see how I respond again to being under the spotlight. I can't imagine anything's going to be bigger than a pay-per-view at Madison Square Garden, but let's go ahead and get a streak going. And then after one or two more wins, then let's start looking at, hey, who's in the top 15? Let's start climbing to the title shot. Let's get in contention. But the big thing that I don't want to do, which I might have done with the Gillespie fight, is, oh, I got this big win. Let's hop into the thick of things, and this career, it's crazy enough as it is. We need to try to be sane about our abilities and about what we've done in the past, and using that, let's slowly build into it instead of jumping right into it.
I mean, since you mentioned the getting experience in there, a slow burn towards the top. Is the UFC like, in other sports, like if you're in the NCAA basketball, jumping to the NBA is a big difference, or in football, jumping into the NFL is a big difference. When you've had a good amount of experience before the UFC, is there a big difference, like a jump in talent level against everybody? Every opponent is tough at this level?
Absolutely. So, I mean, just going from, I fought in the RFA, LFA, Legacy, all of those promotions, and those are the biggest besides Bellator and the UFC. So, I mean, these are huge platforms to fight on. But then when you step into the UFC, everything is ramped up. It's you can feel it. It's tangible. The feeling of walking into the UFC octagon. It's something unlike anything else in the world. And so that step up is huge. It doesn't matter who it is in the UFC. Everyone is fantastic. And then even like Gillespie is probably the best fighter I've fought, obviously, since being in the UFC. And he should be ranked by the end of the year, or early next year, I would imagine. But he's an absolute stud. He dismantled me in the first round. That's just another step up of competition, and that's inside the UFC. So there's the UFC level, and then there's that elite level that I'm trying to break into eventually. But when I did it last time against Gillespie, I got kind of exposed. So going down to this 145, and then hopefully getting a few wins, and then that's when I'll try to get into that elite level, and push into that top 15, top 10.
How quickly would you like to get back in the cage? I mean, this year was the first time you have fought more than once since 2015. Would you like a quick turnaround? Are there some things you got to heal up first?
No, I'm perfectly fine. Honestly, if they asked me to fight in late December, I would be able to make the weight and be able to fight again. I want to get back in there. It's frustrating that injuries have caused me to be on the sideline so much. I broke a rib in I think 2015. 2016 I had hip surgery. 2017 something like that. Maybe 2017 I had hip surgery. But I've just been injured, and this past layoff was due to a back injury. So I'm ready to fight whenever. We're probably looking at January or February just because of the timelines, but hopefully I can get in by the end of February.
What is the process for that for you? I mean, do you send some suggestions to the matchmakers? Do you just wait for the call? Do you let your manager handle it? How does that happen in between fights when you're looking for the next fight? Especially in this case, would you like to fight very soon?
So generally what I'll do is I'll look at the list of all the active 55ers, well, now the 45ers, so I have to get more acquainted with the 45 division because I really don't know that much about it, or as much as I should. So what I'll do is I'll take a list over the next week or two of who are the active 145ers, who's already on a bout agreement or already signed to fight, and then look at who's available over the next few months, and then send the list to my management and say, hey, these are the guys around, what I would be looking at, who are available, who aren't injured, who haven't fought in a little while, or who are ready to get back in there. And then he'll contact is it Shelby for us? Yeah, Shelby. And then I'll just be waiting to hear from my management on who they offer me, or hopefully it's someone from the list. But usually it's just whoever they have.
Okay, now final question. You have been in the sport for 8 years, competed in 20 fights.
Woo! Man, I'm old.
Are you the type of fighter you always aspired to be yet, or is there growth in certain aspects of your game you still want much more from?
Oh man, there's always growth, and if you talk to somebody who says there's no room for growth, or who they say they're the best that they want to be, they're either idiots or they're just the most cocky person in the world. The fact of the matter is, all of us can grow, all of us can get better. It doesn't matter if it's GSP, Ben Askren, I don't know, Daniel Cormier. We all can get better at certain areas. And then when you go to train at the high level gyms with certain people, when I went to Ryan Hall's place a few months ago, to feel the difference, to watch him rolling with me, and I have it on tape, a few situations where he's rolling with me and he's just making a nonchalant face like, man, what am I eating for dinner tonight? As he's murdering me. It shows you the levels of this game, and that's just one aspect where a guy, obviously he's a specialist, but I mean, he destroys me. He could probably do it with one hand. That tells me, hey, you got a long ways to go, and more than likely I'll never be done learning. I always want to find people who, even if it's a part of the game that I don't use that much, hence leg locks with Ryan, I need to learn that stuff. That's good stuff for me to know so that I don't get caught with that kind of stuff. Or if it's striking, if I go back to Vegas right now and train with the Injikwanis, which I did the last time I was in Vegas for the Performance Institute, Chidi was just piecing me up so easily. Granted, he's enormous.
Yeah, he's a
but the
big
fact
boy.
but the fact of the matter is, these guys are technically better than me. It's not just because of their physical attributes. It's because they're technically better than me. And that tells me, hey, you have a long ways to go. And I'll always be able to grow. I just have to find the people who can teach me higher and above what I'm used to and what my gyms technically teach. I don't know. Each gym has their own kind of style. And my gym, I understand my style. We're a big Kimura school in jiu-jitsu, let's say. So I have to go and find other people or places that specialize in other areas. And that's why I can go and work with Ryan. That's why I can, when I'm in Vegas, I'll go and work with the Injikwanis at One Kicks. That's why I'll go to Sergio's in Vegas, So there's plenty of room to grow. I just have to get with the right people, find the right people, bring them into our gym, or go to them.